Greetings and welcome to Ultra Instinct Tarot. My name is Andres, and I'll be the one taking care of you for this reading. Ooh, that flew. So I will be receiving the help from these three homies. They're very good homies. 10 out of 10. Would recommend. So the whole point is to go Ultra Instinct to do and not think before you do. So we're just going to go ahead and get started with consciousness. Exactly, that's the key to Ultra Instinct. There is a watcher where there is no time. So as soon as the watcher thinks something, it happens. As soon as it, so you could say, while it thinks it's doing at the same time. And this is the Ace of Mind. Ace of Swords. This is all logic combined into one, Most of the cards in the suit of the mind are either cartoon-like or troubled because the influence of the mind in our lives is generally either ridiculous or oppressive. But this card of consciousness shows a vast Buddha figure. He is so expansive he has gone even beyond the stars, and above his head is pure emptiness. Sounds like Ultra Instinct. Goku wasn't thinking while he was fighting. His body was the one moving. He represents the consciousness that is available to all who become a master of the mind and can use it as the servant it is meant to be. When you choose this card, it means that there is a crystal clarity available right now, detached, rooted in the deep stillness that lies at the core of your being. There is no desire to understand from the perspective of the mind. The understanding you have now is existential, whole, in harmony with the pulse of life itself. Accept this great gift and share it. That sounds great for you, Aries. So we come from the unknown and we go on moving into the unknown. We will come again. We have been here thousands of times and we will be here thousands of times. Our essential being is immortal, but our body, our embodiment is mortal. Our frame in which we are, our houses, the body, the mind, they are made of material things. They will get tired, they will get old, they will die. But your consciousness, for which Bodhidharma uses the word no mind, Gautama is also used the word no mind. So your consciousness is something beyond body and mind, something beyond everything. That no mind is eternal. It comes into expression and goes again into the unknown. This movement from the unknown to the known, and from the known to the unknown, continues for eternity. Unless somebody becomes enlightened, then that is his last life. Then this flower will not come back again. This flower that has become aware of itself need not come back to life, because life is nothing but a school in which to learn. He has learned the lesson. He is now beyond illusions. He will move from the known for the first time, not into the unknown, but into the unknowable. That is consciousness, the ace of the mind. So put aside logic. Your body has its own intelligence. Your mind has its own intelligence, your body has its own intelligence. And then there's intelligence that links the two. That can't really be seen. Kind of like your emotions, and your thoughts really can't be seen. So there's a third type of intelligence that is sitting there waiting for you to discover it. Laziness. Interesting. This is the 9 of Cups. The 9 of the emotions. This gentleman clearly thinks he's got it made. Interesting. Okay, so it would be like if you use your logic, your mind to understand everything. You think you have it made, you know, if you think your mind understands things, but really, like, those are just words to describe whatever it is. It's never going to be the real thing. So to understand it, you got to really experience it. The point is, the way of thinking of this, there's clearly more to just thinking about the body and the mind, or just using the mind intelligence or the body intelligence. There's something more. So this guy sits in his big overstuffed chair, wearing his sunglasses, shaded by his umbrella, with his pink slippers and his pina colada in his hand. He doesn't have the energy to get up and do anything because he thinks he's done it already. So there's always more, Aries. There's always more to discover. Don't think that you know everything. Don't think that you have it made. Don't think that who you are is the perfection, because there's always more to be done. There's always more fun to have. There's always more games to play. So this guy, he hasn't yet turned to see the mirror cracking around him. This whole mirror. On his right, a sure sign that the place he thinks he's finally arrived at is about to shatter and dissolve before his very eyes. The message this card brings is that this poolside resort is not your final destination. The journey isn't over yet. Things can always get better, as that white bird flying into the vastness of the sky is trying to show. This guy, he's trying to find more stuff to do. Your complacency might have arisen from a real sense of achievement, but now it's time to move on. No matter how fuzzy the slippers, how tasty the pina colada, there are skies upon skies still waiting to be explored. So there's a possibility the mind can deceive you. It can rationalize laziness as non-doing. So be alert. So it sounds like the mind thinks that it hasn't made, and you kind of went complacent into being stuck in whatever this point of view, this perspective is. But times are always changing. This kind of reminded me of my parents, honestly. You know, they grew up in a different time, doing different things, different environment. So their way of thinking is going to be different than mine, because mine is a totally different environment, totally different times. Times have been changing really fast. But, you know, those parents can be stuck in their own ways, you know, and force their children to think the same way as them, or to do the things the same way as they did. But since times are changing, and especially now they're changing really fast, I mean, doing things the same old way is not really going to be helpful in new situations and new environments. So I have all these things I've learned, but they haven't seen. And so decisions I've made are different than the ones they would have made. And for some reason, that's a bad thing. Like, to see things from a totally different perspective. They think they have it all figured out, but really, there's much more to explore, to know. And if there is much more to know and to explore, then your point of view and perspective is definitely going to change the more things you discover. The Princess of Swords. Interesting. I haven't seen this card in a long, long time. The Princess of Swords. So we're in Swords, which is about the mind. We've talked about that. The Princess is the earth part of the swords, which the swords are of air. So Princess of Swords equals earth of air. Earth of air. So the character of the princess is stern and revengeful. Her logic is destructive. She is firm and aggressive, with great practical wisdom and subtlety in material things. Okay, so like, imagine her logic is destructive and being firm and aggressive. So like, that would make sense in war, right? Like, if somebody's in war, yeah, you should be aggressive, you should be firm, you should, you know, defend yourself, you should, war, men. But if you're not in war type situation, if you're just at home, Like, does it make sense to be destructive and firm and aggressive, especially if you're around, you know, people you should be protecting? So yeah, there's different traits useful in different situations, different parts of you that are useful in certain situations, but that doesn't mean you gotta use them all the time, or that that's who you are. You can always move around and change to thrive in whatever environment comes next. So rising out of a cloud of dust, Crowley's paradoxal Princess of Swords, Earth of Air, appears like a beautiful avenging angel. Her head is crowned with the Medusa-headed helmet, which mercifully is turned away from our view. Thank God, or else I'd be rock right now. For if we were to gaze upon its awful face, we would surely be turned to stone. Turning things to stone, fixation of the volatile, materialization of idea. Interesting. Okay, so since the air, it's like invisible, you know, your thoughts are invisible. So air, you know, you can only feel it, you can't really see it. And so rock, earth, is literally the complete opposite. You can see it, you can touch it, you can feel it. I mean, you can't really change it because it's rock. Can you change a rock into like a different rock? Or can you change a rock into I don't know, water? Like, no, not really. It is what it is. So fixation of the volatile, making something that keeps moving and changing, and trying to not change it so that you can label it as something. So this is part of the job description for Princess of Swords. The suit of swords as Ruach, which is the intellect, is a wonderful aspect of our being, because when we identify with the Ruach, we rise above and separate ourselves from our lower nature, the animal soul. However, when we identify with the Ruach, we also separate ourselves from the higher parts of our souls that represent greater realities and level of consciousness than our Ruach is incapable of comprehending. Consequently, the Ruach does everything it can to keep its grasp on our identity. This is why the Eastern mystics warn us that the mind is a great enemy and must be defeated in battle. When the battle begins, the Ruach naturally sends its finest swordsman into the field, a warrior princess who manifests everything that is inherent yet hidden in her lord the Ace, a mighty champion of the mind, a Minerva and Artemis of Valkyrie. This Princess of Swords. Swirling clouds of gray-black dust and violent wind bursts darken the heavens and almost completely dominate and obscure what was once the yellows and blues of this suit. Interesting. So it looks like you've been bumping up against stuff that counter whatever your mind is thinking. And so since the mind doesn't want to be defeated or changed, then it fights back. Because it's the sword. It wants to defend itself. Because if you change it, then it's going to be different, you know. But new perspectives are kind of difficult to settle into once you have a pattern that you're used to. New patterns are always hard. New things are always hard. Imagine when you were a baby and you saw all these people walking around you. You know, walking for a baby walking in general is extremely difficult. I don't know how we do it. The only reason babies can do it is because they keep seeing everybody else around them. Nobody's telling them that they can't do it. And so they just try and try and try. They fall and fall and fall, but they keep trying. Walking is something new. But they keep trying. They don't fail and be like, well, this doesn't work. Walking is stupid. And then they never walk, you know. They keep trying because walking is useful. Getting a new perspective on things, especially if your old perspective isn't, you know, seeing things for how they are. And the Prince of Wands. Okay, that's cool. We have a Princess of Swords and the Prince of Wands. Looks like life wants to be your partner. This whole new stuff that you don't know about is coming rushing in and wants to be your partner. Because how cool is it? The Prince and the Princess. The Wands is about the will. So if there is no movement, the Wands, the will, creates movement. Because there's somewhere it wants to go. There's something it wants to do. The Prince of Wands is the air of fire, the wind. The wind is being lit by fire. So the Prince of Wands, he is romantic, especially in matters of history and tradition, to the point of folly, and may engineer stunts or play elaborate practical jokes. The ascendant or the rising sun sign in one's astrological natal chart is second only to the sun sign in importance. Among other things, it represents the native's personality and how they appear to others in the world. Interesting. There's more of that personality and how you appear to others in the world. So that could also change, how you appear to others in the world. Crowley's ascendant was 3 degrees Leo. Consequently, he identified strongly with Leo and with the Prince of Wands, who rules 20 degrees Cancer to 20 degrees Leo. This card is Crowley's idealized image of himself. First of all, we find his personal seal, which is the mark of the beast emblazoned upon the breast of the prince. This device appears in only 2 other places in the Thoth Tarot, on the 5 of Wands and the Ace of Discs, which by tradition is the signature card of the deck's creator. That's something cool I never knew about. Whenever somebody makes their own tarot deck, they sign the Ace of Discs with either, like a little logo of theirs or an actual signature or something that represents them. So that's kind of cool. The prince is even seated in Crowley's favorite yogic posture, the Thunderbolt Asana. Crowley, because he felt he knew himself so well, had a great deal to say about the moral qualities and intellectual paradoxes of this card. Alright, so this is the most important part about this card. He is often violent, especially in the expression of an opinion, but he does not necessarily hold the opinion about which he is so emphatic. His character is intensely noble and generous. He may be an extravagant boaster while slyly laughing both at the object of his boast and at himself for making it. His courage is fanatically strong and his endurance indefatigable. He is always fighting against odds and always wins in the very long run. While Crowley identifies with this card because of his rising sign, it also describes a few other notables whose sun sign makes them Prince of Wands. Julius Caesar, John Dee, Nelson Mandela, Mick Jagger, Jacqueline Kennedy, Madame Blavatsky, and Christopher Hyatt are all Princes of Wands. Okay, so the most important is this. He is violent, especially in the expression of an opinion, but he does not necessarily hold the opinion about which he is so emphatic. So that is like, going back to here. It's like, of course, use your mind, use your body. Very reliable tools. But ultimately, both of those are like not the whole thing. There's more. So it's like he has his opinion, but he does not necessarily hold the opinion about which he is so emphatic. He knows there's that consciousness hidden behind the two that is the complete truth. We have the mind and body more as entertainment, and these two want to be together. The Empress. Wow. So this is some deep intuitive thinking that's changing, man. Aries, you're listen to what this guy wants to say and this chick. We could probably okay, well let me read the Empress. Number 3. Okay, this one took a little longer to find. Interesting. So like if you're thinking, your body and your mind might be thinking for you, but if you wait silently and patiently, eventually you will get to this one that wants to be heard. So the Empress is about creativity, abundance, nature, fertility, feminine energy, and nurturing. The Empress is the embodiment of the divine feminine energy that is deeply creative, expressive, and sensual. She is tied to the earthly realm and the delights of the senses, with an innate connection to the natural world. Her state of abundance is coupled with a maternal instinct that is nurturing and compassionate, but also fiercely protective of all that is vulnerable and sacred. What can you show gratitude for? The peaceful sway of the trees in the wind, or the sun's ray on a cold morning? Could the beauty in these moments inspire you to start a new project? Appreciation and connection to all that surrounds us also develops our sense of empathy. Do you feel a need to care for others? How can you support them? Venture into nature. Take pleasure in your senses. See, hear, taste, touch, and smell everything. Notice the little details that can sometimes pass you by. When we are more in touch with our sensuality, we can also more deeply appreciate our natural world. Yeah, this is saying don't just, just because this is saying that there's more than the body and the mind, doesn't mean you can just set aside the body and the mind, and treat them like trash. No, use them. They're valuable tools. A knife is a very useful tool. I mean, a knife can also be used to stab people with it. So, imagine if I heard that somebody across the world stabbed someone with a knife, and now I think all knives are evil and shouldn't be used and should be banned. Well, knives can be a useful tool. Knives are useful for certain things. Same with the body and the mind. They're very useful, but they're not everything, Now imagine I want to do everything with my knife, shake hands, and I have to use my knife. No, the knife is only useful in certain situations, just like we were talking about over here. You don't have to use your knife everywhere you go. 10 of Cups. Wow. You listen to these and you're gonna be like this guy, but for realsies. 10 of Cups. Cups are the emotions. As you can see, their emotions are very, very nice and happy. Ten of Cups. It's about family, home, fulfillment, emotional security, fulfilling relationships. When the self-love within the Ace of Cups overflows and nourishes all, we find true emotional fulfillment with community and relationships. The Fool's life is filled with loved ones. The connections represented by this card are deep, loyal, and harmonious. It signals a pleasant family life, but can also apply to romantic relationships where love and compassion within larger social circles. Connect with the idea of home. Consider what the concept of home means to you. Examine whether it is a place or a person or a feeling that comes with you in your heart. And do you really want to use your knife all over your own home? No, put it away. Also, the knife is another sword. So every time I said knife, you could just replace it with the mind and your way of thinking. But yeah, this seems this is a good reading. There's something new coming. You thought you had it all, you thought you knew, and then life was like, psych, there's more. But that's a good thing, Good embodiment. It's talking about relationships and stuff, and you have a princess and a prince here together. So it could be a partner too. And I love how the Empress is facing this 10 of Cups. It means you're going in the direction you need to go, Aries. Alright, let's get some last minute advice from the Office Oracle deck. Cool. So this is my "You're not happy when you're alone" card. This is a conversation between Gabe and Andy. I can't be alone anymore, Andy. Do you like being alone with me right now? No, this is horrifying. I don't like being alone with me either. So before you do anything else, learn how to be alone and not lonely. If you are feeling lonely, face the loneliness. Don't run away from it. It's actually impossible to run away from it because you will always be with yourself. Remember, you are one. Be the one that you need. I promise you that if you face the loneliness, you might just find out that you're actually pretty cool to hang out with. That's this Empress talking and this guy talking. Saying you're actually pretty cool to hang out with. Just get to know yourself a little better. And then the self you want to know a little better is not your mind or body. It's whatever else is behind the two. And this is a good card, I feel, for this situation. It's about chaos. So Nelly says, I walked right into a job for which I was ill-prepared, ill-suited, and somebody else already had, and I got it. Anything can happen to anyone. It's just random. So take pi, for example. If I show you that string of digits, you could immediately recognize it as pi, mostly because of the 3.14. But if you didn't know what pi was, you would say that those are just a string of random numbers, because they are random, like, there's no order to that. Come on. Now, if I didn't start the sequence at the beginning, if I started at the 100th digit of pi, would you still recognize it as pi, or would you think it's a random sequence of numbers? And this is what chaos is. It may seem random, but there is an order to it. Pi, no matter how random it seems, will always be pi. And life is pi. Thank you so much for being here, Aries. See you next time.